Matteo Romano stopped just inside the cafe door. The sound came first: espresso machines hissing, cups clinking against saucers, low conversation tangling with the scrape of chair legs on tile. Then the smell: roasted coffee beans, burnt sugar, something vanilla sweet from the pastry case. Normal. Ordinary. He registered none of it. His entire world had narrowed to the woman behind the counter. She had her back to him, one hand reaching for a coffee canister on the high shelf, the other arm curved around something someone pressed against her hip. Dark hair pulled back in a messy knot. White apron strings tied at her waist. The slope of her shoulders achingly familiar in a way that made his chest feel too tight. Anna. 4 years. 4 years since she'd walked out of his life without explanation, without warning, without a word he could use to make sense of the space she left behind. And here she was, working in a cafe 6 blocks from his office like she'd never disappeared at all. The child shifted. Matteo's breath stopped. A boy. Small, maybe 3 or 4 years old, wearing a striped shirt with jam smeared across the collar. The child turned his face into Anna's shoulder, hiding from the noise, and Matteo caught a flash of profile, the shape of his nose, the angle of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead. Then the boy looked up, blue eyes. Not light, not dark. Piercing, unmistakable. Like mine, he thought. Hello, beautiful people. If you like this story so far, comment where you are watching from. Also like and subscribe to Bella's Romance Stories for more captivating stories. Let's continue. The world didn't explode. It went silent. Everything Matteo had spent years building: control, distance, the careful architecture of a man who could not afford weakness, cracked down the center. Anna turned. She was laughing at something the barista beside her had said, her mouth curved in that dry, self-deprecating way she had when she thought no one important was watching. Then her gaze swept the room, landed on him, and stopped. Her smile died. Her hand tightened instinctively around the boy, pulling him closer, and Matteo watched her face cycle through shock, fear, something sharp and defensive, before finally settling into a mask he recognized too well. The mask she wore when she was terrified and refusing to show it. Anna. He hadn't meant to say her name, hadn't meant to give her anything at all, but it came out anyway, low and rough, like something scraped from the back of his throat. She didn't answer. The boy, his son, God, his son, peered at Matteo with open curiosity, tilting his head in a way that was so painfully familiar, Matteo had to look away. "Can I help you?" Anna's voice was steady. Professional, like she was speaking to a stranger who'd wandered in off the street. Matteo's jaw tightened. He studied her the way he studied enemies across negotiation tables, looking for weaknesses, tells, fractures in the facade. She'd lost weight. Not much, but enough that her cheekbones stood out sharper than he remembered. Shadows under her eyes suggested sleepless nights. Her hands, wrapped protectively around the child, bore tiny scars he didn't recognize. She'd built a life without him, and she'd hidden his son in it. "Matteo." Her voice dropped, losing the false brightness. "You need to leave." "Do I?" "Yes." The barista beside her glanced between them, sensing something wrong but not understanding what. Anna smiled at her, tight, brittle, and murmured something Matteo couldn't hear. The girl nodded and moved away, taking the espresso machine's noise with her. The boy squirmed in Anna's arms. "Mama," he said, soft and clear. "Down, Mama." The word hit Matteo like a blade between his ribs. Anna set the child on his feet but kept her hand on his shoulder, anchoring him close. The boy immediately reached for a wooden toy car sitting on the counter behind them, making soft engine noises under his breath. Matteo couldn't stop staring. The resemblance was undeniable. Not just the eyes, though, those alone would have been enough. It was the stillness. The way the child watched the world with that same careful, assessing quiet Matteo had learned before he could walk. The set of his small shoulders, the stubborn angle of his chin. Anna was saying something, but Matteo wasn't listening. He was doing math. 4 years since she left. The boy looked 3, maybe 4. The timeline. Christ, you should go. Anna's voice pulled him back. She was holding herself together through sheer will, he could see it. Her hands trembled slightly before she pressed them flat against the counter. Please. She never said please. Not unless she was desperate. Matteo took 1 step forward. Anna took 1 step back, moving the boy with her. Don't, she whispered. He stopped. For a long moment, they stood there, a counter, and 4 years and 1,000 unspoken truths between them. The cafe continued around them, oblivious. Someone ordered a latte. The espresso machine hissed. A customer laughed at something on their phone. Normal. Ordinary. Except nothing about this was ordinary. Matteo looked at the boy one last time, memorizing details: the small scar above his left eyebrow, the way his fingers curled around the toy car, the exact shade of his eyes. Then he looked at Anna. I'll see you soon, he said quietly. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. He turned and walked out without ordering, without looking back, without acknowledging the business associate still waiting at a corner table. The cold air hit him like a slap. Matteo stood on the sidewalk, watching his breath fog in the December chill, and pulled out his phone. His most trusted man answered on the first ring. Find everything, Matteo said, his voice dangerously calm. Anna Smith. The last 4 years. Where she's been, what she's done, who she's seen. A pause. How deep do you want me to go? Matteo watched Anna through the cafe window. She'd picked up the boy again, holding him close, her face pressed against his hair like she was trying to memorize the feeling of safety. All the way down, Matteo said softly. He ended the call. Then he made another. Clear my schedule, he told his assistant. Everything. Starting now. For how long? Matteo stared at the cafe, at the woman who'd vanished from his life, at the son he didn't know existed, at the future he hadn't planned for and couldn't walk away from. Until I say otherwise. He hung up. His hand was steady, his breathing even. To anyone watching, he looked exactly as he always did, controlled, composed, untouchable. Inside, something fundamental had shifted. Matteo Romano had walked into a coffee shop expecting a routine meeting. He'd walked out a father. And fathers, he was beginning to understand, protected what was theirs, no matter the cost. Matteo sat in the back of his car across the street from the cafe, watching. He'd been there for 40 minutes. The driver knew better than to ask questions. The 2 men Matteo had called for security knew better than to exist unless needed. They were good at their jobs, which meant they were invisible until violence required otherwise. Through the cafe window, Anna moved between tables, refilling coffee, clearing plates, smiling at customers with that practiced warmth that didn't quite reach her eyes. She'd always been good at masks. He'd just forgotten how good. The boy, Daniele, he'd heard her call him, sat behind the counter on a small stool, swinging his legs and drawing something with crayons. Every few minutes, Anna would pause to check on him, her hand automatically reaching out to smooth his hair or adjust his shirt collar. Protective. Constant. Hers. Matteo's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Romano, Marco answered immediately, his head of security. Loyal since they were teenagers, running streets together before Matteo inherited an empire and Marco chose to serve it. I need information on Anna Smith, Matteo said quietly. Everything. Where she's been living, employment history, medical records, hospital admissions. He paused, watching Anna laugh at something a customer said. Especially hospital admissions. 4 to 5 years ago. What am I looking for? Birth records. Silence on the other end. Then, understood. How fast? Today. Matteo. Today, Marco. He ended the call. His phone buzzed immediately. A text from his attorney, asking about the abandoned meeting. Matteo deleted it without reading fully. He had no capacity for business right now. The cafe door opened. A woman emerged mid-20s, college student type, carrying a backpack. She waved goodbye to Anna through the window. Shift change, probably. Anna appeared a moment later, holding Daniela's hand as she locked the door behind them. The boy carried a small backpack shaped like a dinosaur, and Anna had changed out of her apron into a worn jacket that had seen better years. They turned left. "Follow them," Matteo told his driver. "Stay back." The car pulled into traffic smoothly, maintaining 3 car lengths of distance. Anna didn't notice. She was focused entirely on Daniele, pointing at something in a shop window that made the boy laugh. The sound didn't carry, but Matteo could see the joy on his small face, unguarded and pure. 4 years old. Matteo closed his eyes. 5 years ago. His penthouse. Anna in his kitchen at 2 a.m., wearing his shirt and nothing else, making tea she'd never drink. "You're thinking too loud," she'd said without turning around. "I can hear your brain from here." "Then stop listening." She'd turned then, smiling that private smile she only gave him when they were alone. "Make me." He had. Later, with her curled against his chest and dawn turning the sky purple-gray, she'd traced the scar on his ribs. "What are we doing, Matteo? What do you want to be doing?" "Something less dangerous. Everything worth having is dangerous." She'd lifted her head to look at him. "That's a terrible philosophy. It's kept me alive. Has it kept you happy?" He'd kissed her instead of answering. 3 weeks later, she was gone. Matteo opened his eyes. The car had stopped. He looked out to see Anna and Daniela entering a small apartment building, 4 stories, red brick, the kind of place where rent was cheap and maintenance cheaper. Not unsafe, but close. She'd been living here, with his son, in a building Matteo wouldn't house his lowest soldier in. His hands curled into fists on his lap. "Sir?" The driver's voice was carefully neutral. "Do you want me to—" "Wait here." Matteo got out of the car and stood on the sidewalk, studying the building. 3rd floor, corner unit, fire escape visible from the street, 1 entrance, no security camera he could see. Completely unprotected. Anna appeared in the window briefly, pulling curtains closed. Daniele's silhouette bounced past, jumping on furniture, probably. Anna's shadow moved to intercept, lifting the boy, disappearing deeper into the apartment. Normal. Domestic. A life Matteo hadn't known existed. His phone vibrated. "Marco, preliminary report attached. Full details by tonight." Matteo opened the file. The first page was basic. Anna Smith, 29, current address matching the building in front of him. Previous address nothing. Employment history cafe only, started 3.5 years ago. No credit cards, no mortgage, no bank accounts under her name before 4 years ago. She'd erased herself. Or someone had erased her. He scrolled down. Hospital records, Street Catherine's Medical Center admission date, March 15, 4 years ago. Matteo stopped breathing. Reason for admission: labor and delivery. Patient delivered. Male infant, Zeva Pondenvirons, healthy. Father, unknown. The phone felt too heavy in his hand. He scrolled further. Estimated conception date, June. 5 years ago. June. 5 years ago. When Anna was still in his bed. In his life. In his... Antichrist. Matteo looked up at the window. The curtains were drawn now, hiding Anna and Daniela from view, hiding his son from him. For 4 years. 4 years of birthdays he'd missed, first words he hadn't heard, steps he hadn't watched. 4 years of his son growing up unprotected in a world that ate the weak and destroyed the vulnerable. 4 years of Anna carrying this alone. Matteo's rage was a cold, methodical thing. He didn't yell, didn't break things, didn't storm up to that 3rd-floor apartment and demand answers. He stood on the sidewalk, perfectly still, and made decisions. 1. Daniele was his son. The math didn't lie. The eyes didn't lie. 2. Anna had reasons. She always had reasons. He would learn them before making judgments. 3. No one would threaten what was his. Not anymore. His phone rang. Marco, tell me you found something, Matteo said quietly. Birth certificate arrived. Mother. Anna Smith. Father. Blank. Marco paused. Matteo. The timeline. I know. What do you want me to do? Matteo watched the window. Imagined Anna inside, putting their son to bed, telling him stories, keeping him safe in ways Matteo had never been kept safe. She'd done this without him. She'd survived without him. But survival and safety were different things. Start protection detail, Matteo said. Discreet. I want someone on that building 24/7. No one approaches her or the boy without me knowing. For how long? Until I say otherwise. Matteo. And Marco? Matteo's voice dropped to something dangerous. Find out why she ran, who she thought she was running from, what happened between the last time I saw her and the day she disappeared. You think someone threatened her? I don't know. That was the worst part. But I'm going to find out. He ended the call. One more look at the window. Dark now. Quiet. Then Matteo got back in his car. Where to, sir? Office, Matteo said. I have work to do. But his mind wasn't on business. It was on blue eyes and small hands and 4 years of questions he hadn't known to ask. The file arrived at 11 p.m. Matteo sat alone in his office, city lights spreading below him like scattered diamonds, and opened it. 20 pages. Every detail of Anna's life since she disappeared. He read it all. Then he read one page twice. Hospital intake notes. March 15, 4 years ago. Patient arrived alone, in active labor, no emergency contact listed. When asked about the father, patient became distressed and stated, "He can't know, he can't ever know, promise me." Attending physician notes. Patient appears frightened, refused all follow-up contact information. Matteo's hands shook. Just once. Then they were still again. He pulled out his phone and typed a message to Marco. Clear my morning schedule. I need to visit someone. The response came immediately. Who? Matteo looked at the file. At the hospital notes. At the fear in Anna's words, transcribed by a doctor who couldn't possibly understand what they meant. Anna Smith, he typed, and she's going to tell me the truth. All of it. Starting with why she was afraid of me. Anna saw Matteo the moment she stepped out of the cafe. He was leaning against a black car parked at the curb, arms crossed, perfectly still in a way that made every instinct she had scream danger. The street light above him flickered, casting shadows across his face that made him look like something out of a nightmare she'd been having for 4 years. She stopped walking. Daniele, holding her hand, stopped too. He looked up at her, confused by the sudden halt, then followed her gaze to the man watching them. Mama? It's fine, baby. Anna's voice came out steadier than she felt. Just stay close to me, okay? Okay. She could turn around, go back inside, call someone though who, exactly, she had no idea. Marie didn't know how to handle men like Matteo Romano. No one did. Except maybe Anna. Once. She tightened her grip on Daniele's hand and walked forward. Matteo straightened as she approached, but didn't move toward them. Giving her space, maybe, or just calculating the best angle of attack. With Matteo, it was hard to tell the difference. Anna. His voice was exactly as she remembered, low, controlled, with that faint accent that turned her name into something softer than it deserved to be. Matteo. She stopped about 6 feet away. Close enough to talk, far enough to run. This is starting to feel like stalking. Is it? Well, you're standing outside my workplace after I explicitly told you to leave, so... She tilted her head, forcing lightness into her tone. Yeah, little bit. His gaze dropped to Daniele, who was half hidden behind her leg, peering out with cautious curiosity. I needed to talk to you, Matteo said. And I needed to not talk to you. Guess we're at an impasse. Anna, how did you even find me? She kept her voice level, conversational, like they were discussing the weather and not the fact that he'd just detonated her entire carefully constructed life. Actually, don't answer that. I know how. Then you know I'm not leaving. Fantastic. Love that for me. Matteo's jaw tightened barely, just a fraction. But Anna had spent 2 years learning to read the microscopic shifts in his expression. He was frustrated. Good. That made 2 of them. Can we talk somewhere private? He asked. No. Anna. I said no, Matteo. Her hand moved to rest on Daniele's head, protective and possessive. Whatever you think you need to say to me, you can say it here. Or not at all. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then at Daniele. Then back to her. When did you leave? He asked quietly. Anna's throat tightened. You know when. I know the date. I'm asking why. Does it matter? Yes. She laughed short, sharp, edged with something that might have been pain if she let herself feel it. You want to do this now? Here? With my son standing right next to me? Your son! Matteo repeated the words, like he was testing them, tasting them. That's what you're calling him? That's what he is. Is he? The question hung between them, quiet and devastating. Anna's heart slammed against her ribs. Daniele pressed closer to her leg, sensing the adult tension even if he didn't understand it. You need to leave, she said, her voice harder now. Right now. I'm not here to take him from you. Could have fooled me. I'm not. Matteo took 1 step forward. Anna took 1 step back, pulling Daniele with her. Matteo stopped immediately, raising 1 hand slightly surrender, or maybe just caution. I just want to understand. Understand what? Why you disappeared. Why you didn't... He stopped himself, jaw working. Why you're working in a cafe when you should be... When I should be what, Matteo? Anna's control cracked, just slightly. Living in your world? Watching you come home with blood on your hands? Explaining to my son why Daddy's business meetings sometimes end with people dying? Daniele's head snapped up at the sharp tone. Mama? Anna forced herself to breathe, to soften. Sorry, baby, I'm okay. But she wasn't okay. And Matteo could see it. I never wanted that for you, he said quietly. I know. And that was the worst part, wasn't it? That's why I left. Something shifted in his expression. Pain, maybe, or recognition. You were protecting him. I was protecting both of us. From me. It wasn't a question, just a statement, a truth. Anna wanted to deny it, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that she'd never been afraid of him, that she'd left for 1,000 reasons that had nothing to do with fear. But she was tired of lying. Yes, she said simply. Matteo absorbed that like a physical blow, silent, internal, devastating. For a moment, he looked like a man who'd just realized the war he'd been fighting was against the wrong enemy. Then his face went carefully blank again. I wouldn't have hurt you, he said. I know that too. Anna's voice was softer now, tired. But your world would have, eventually. And I can't let that happen to him. She felt Daniele shift against her leg, growing restless with the adult conversation he didn't understand but could feel the weight of. Matteo looked down at him. Really looked, for the first time since they'd started talking. His expression did something complicated, softening and hardening at once, pain and possessiveness, fighting for dominance. He has your eyes, Anna said quietly. She didn't know why she said it. Maybe because Matteo clearly already knew. Maybe because saying it out loud made it more real. In case you were wondering. I wasn't wondering. No, I didn't think you were. Matteo crouched slowly, carefully, bringing himself to Daniele's eye level. The boy watched him with solemn curiosity, no longer hiding behind Anna, but not approaching either. Hello, Matteo said, his voice gentler than Anna had heard it in years. Daniele tilted his head. Hello? What's your name? Daniele. He pronounced it carefully, all 3 syllables distinct. What's yours? Matteo. That's a long name. So is Daniele. The boy considered this, Mama says long names are for important people. Something flickered across Matteo's face too fast for Anna to identify. Your mama is very smart, he said. Daniele nodded seriously, accepting this as fact. Then, with the fearless curiosity of 4-year-olds everywhere, he asked, "Are you my mama's friend?" Matteo's eyes lifted to Anna's. She couldn't breathe. "I used to be," Matteo said, still holding her gaze. "A long time ago." "Why did you stop?" "Because," Matteo's voice caught, just barely, "because sometimes people make mistakes." "Oh." Daniele absorbed this with the easy acceptance of someone who'd never had to understand adult complications. "Then, did you say sorry?" "No," Matteo admitted. "I didn't." "You should say sorry. Mama says sorry fixes things." Anna's heart cracked open. Matteo rose slowly, never breaking eye contact with her. "Does it? Fix things?" "I don't know," Anna whispered. "Then maybe I should try." Before Anna could respond, before she could think, Daniele tugged on Matteo's jacket with small, fearless fingers. "Excuse me," he said politely. Matteo looked down. "Yes? Are you my daddy?" The world stopped. Anna's hand flew to her mouth. Matteo went completely still, not breathing, not moving, carved from stone and shock. Daniele waited patiently for an answer, blue eyes wide and trusting, unaware that he'd just detonated a bomb neither adult knew how to defuse. "And Matteo." Matteo looked at Anna with an expression that destroyed her. "Tell me," it said, "tell me what to say to him." But Anna had no words. She had nothing except the truth she'd been running from for 4 years. And a son who deserved better than lies. Anna didn't answer Danielle's question. She couldn't. Instead, she crouched down, eye level with her son, and brushed his hair back from his forehead with shaking fingers. "Baby, can you do something for Mama?" Daniele nodded seriously. "See that bench right there?" She pointed to the cafe's outdoor seating area, just 10 feet away, close enough to watch. Far enough for privacy. "Can you sit there and play with your cars for a few minutes? Just while I talk to Mr. Matteo?" "But..." "Please, Daniela." Something in her voice made him obey without further argument. He pulled his toy cars from his dinosaur backpack and settled onto the bench, making quiet engine noises as he rolled them across the wooden slats. Anna watched him for a moment, her beautiful, perceptive boy, who asked questions she'd spent 4 years praying he'd never think to ask. Then she turned to Matteo. He was watching Daniele with an expression that made her chest ache. Not possessive, not calculating, just lost. Like a man staring at something he'd never expected to find and had no idea how to hold. "We need to talk," Anna said quietly. "But not here." "Where?" "There's a park 2 blocks down. Daniele likes the swings." She glanced at her son, then back to Matteo. "And we need somewhere he can be distracted while we have this conversation." Matteo nodded once. "I'll follow you." The park was empty, except for a teenage couple sharing headphones on a distant bench. Streetlights cast yellow pools across cracked pavement and playground equipment that had seen better decades. Daniele ran immediately to the swings, calling for Anna to push him. "In a minute, baby," she called back. "Play on the slide first, okay?" He changed direction without complaint, scrambling up the ladder with the fearless efficiency of 4-year-olds everywhere. Anna sat on a bench facing the playground. Matteo sat beside her, not close, but not distant either. Close enough that she could feel the heat of him, the familiar gravitational pull she'd spent years learning to resist. "You should know," she said, watching Daniele slide down with his arms raised in victory. "I didn't plan this conversation. I didn't plan any of this." "Neither did I." "No. I suppose you didn't." She took a breath. Let it out slowly. "He's yours, Matteo. In case that wasn't obvious." "I know. The math works out perfectly, doesn't it?" Her laugh was bitter. "I found out 2 weeks after I left. Went to 3 different pharmacies to buy pregnancy tests because I was terrified someone would recognize me." "Recognize your..." She stopped herself. "Someone from your world." Mateo's hands curled into fists on his lap. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid. Of me? Of what loving you meant? Anna kept her eyes on Daniele, who was now digging in the sandbox with a stick. You remember the night I left? Yes. Do you remember what happened that day? Before? Silence. Anna glanced at him. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable in the dim light. There was a meeting, she continued quietly. At your apartment. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. Your uncle and 2 other men. They were talking about someone who'd become a liability, someone who knew too much about the family business. Mateo's entire body went still. Anna? They said she needed to disappear, permanently. Anna's voice was steady, but her hands trembled in her lap. And then your uncle said my name. Christ. You walked in right as he said it. I was in the hallway and I heard you tell him. She stopped, the memory still sharp after 4 years. You told him you'd handle it. That I wouldn't be a problem anymore. Mateo turned to face her fully. That's why you left. I waited until you went to sleep, packed 1 bag, left everything else. She finally looked at him, letting him see the old fear still living in her eyes. I thought you'd chosen your empire over me. I thought handling it meant. It didn't. His voice was rough. Anna, it didn't. I know that now. Maybe I even knew it then, somewhere deep down. But I was 25 and pregnant and terrified, and I couldn't risk being wrong. She looked back at Daniele, who was now making a sandcastle. Not with him inside me. Mateo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, careful, like he was choosing each word with surgical precision. My uncle gave that order without my knowledge, he said. He thought you were going to run to the authorities, that you'd seen too much, knew too much. He was always paranoid about outsiders. And you? I told him I'd handle it because I needed time to think, to plan. Mateo's hands unclenched slowly. I was going to send you away, not to disappear, to protect. Switzerland, maybe. Or Japan. Somewhere far from my family and their wars. Anna's breath caught. I was going to tell you that night, he continued, after the meeting. But when I came to bed, you were already asleep, so I decided to wait until morning. His voice went flat. By morning, you were gone. You were going to send me away. I was going to give you a choice. Stay and accept the risks, or leave and be safe. He looked at her. I would have set you up with everything you needed. New identity, money, protection from a distance. You would have let me go. If it kept you alive? Yes. Anna felt something crack open in her chest, not breaking exactly but shifting, reframing. I thought you were going to kill me, Mateo. I know. The words sounded like they hurt. I know you did. And instead, you were trying to save me. Badly, he said. Apparently. She laughed, unexpected, sharp, edged with hysteria. God. We're idiots. You're not an idiot. We spent 4 years apart because neither of us knew how to talk to each other like normal people. She pressed her palms to her eyes. That feels pretty idiotic. Daniela's voice called across the playground. Mama, look how high! Anna dropped her hands, smiling automatically. I see, baby, be careful. When she looked back at Mateo, he was watching her with something complicated in his expression. You're good with him, he said quietly. I'm his mother. I'm supposed to be. Still. He paused. Does he ask about his father? Sometimes. Anna's throat tightened. I tell him his daddy had to go away for work, that he loved us very much but couldn't stay. Do you believe that? She met his eyes. I believe you didn't know about him. I believe you would have made different choices if you had. Would I have? I don't know, Mateo, would you? He didn't answer immediately, just sat there, watching their son play in a park they'd never imagined sharing, considering a question neither of them had prepared for. Yes, he said finally. I would have. Anna wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. Your uncle, she said carefully, the one who wanted me gone. Is he dead? Mateo's voice was flat. 6 months after you left. Natural causes? Anna's eyes narrowed. Natural causes. He had a heart attack. Did he? Mateo looked at her, said nothing. Right, Anna said quietly. Natural. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken things pressing down between them. I need to know something, Mateo said. The last 4 years, you and Daniele, were you safe? Safe enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Anna watched their son. We survived, Mateo. That's what matters. Surviving isn't enough. It was for me. He made a sound that might have been frustration or pain. Anna. Mama! Daniele was running toward them now, arms outstretched. Push me on the swings! You promised! Anna stood immediately, grateful for the interruption. Coming, baby. But Daniele had stopped in front of Mateo instead, looking up at him with curious eyes. Do you know how to push swings? He asked. Mateo glanced at Anna. She could see the question in his eyes. Is this okay? Are we okay? She wasn't sure they were, but she nodded anyway. I can learn, Mateo told Daniele. The boy's face lit up. He grabbed Mateo's hand, small fingers wrapping around large ones, and pulled him toward the swings with complete trust. Anna followed slowly, watching Mateo let himself be led by a 4-year-old who didn't know he was being led by someone dangerous. Mateo pushed the swing carefully, testing the motion. Daniele laughed, kicking his legs. Higher, he called. Careful, Anna said automatically. But Mateo had already adjusted, finding the right height, enough thrill for a child, not enough risk for panic. Anna watched them together. Father and son. Blue eyes matching across generations. And she realized with sudden, devastating clarity, everything she'd built her life on, every decision, every sacrifice, every midnight moment of wondering if she'd made the right choice might have been based on a misunderstanding. She'd protected Daniele from a threat that had already been eliminated. She'd run from a man who'd been trying to save her. She'd spent 4 years surviving when she could have been. What? Living? Mama, look! Daniele called from the swing. Look how high! Anna smiled, automatic and bright and completely false. Because she was looking, and what she saw terrified her more than any threat Mateo's uncle could have made. The possibility that she'd been wrong. About everything. Anna noticed the car on Tuesday. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked across from the cafe. It had been there when she arrived at 6 a.m. to prep for opening, and it was still there when she took her break at noon. She told herself she was being paranoid. By Wednesday, she knew she wasn't. Different car, dark blue this time, but the same deliberate positioning, same tinted windows, same sense of being watched, even when she couldn't see who was watching. Thursday brought a third car. And the man who didn't bother hiding. He sat at an outdoor table, ordering nothing, reading a newspaper that Anna was fairly certain he never turned the page on. Mid-40s, sharp suit, the kind of face that forgot you existed the moment you stopped being useful. Anna recognized the type. She'd spent 2 years learning to identify them in Mateo's world. Marie, she said quietly to the barista working beside her, when's your break? Half an hour. Why? Take it now, and when you come back, can you watch Daniele for 10 minutes? Marie glanced at the boy coloring behind the counter. Sure, but thanks. Anna was already untying her apron. She grabbed her phone and walked out the back door into the alley, her hands shaking as she pulled up the one number she'd sworn she'd never call. Mateo answered on the first ring. Anna, I'm being followed. No preamble, no explanation, just fact. Silence. Then, where are you? Behind the cafe. There's been cars. 3 days now, and today there's a man. Inside or outside? Outside. He's not hiding it, Mateo. He wants me to know he's there. Stay where you are. I'm 10 minutes away. I have to get back inside, Daniela. Lock the doors. Don't let anyone in you don't recognize. His voice was completely calm, which somehow made it worse. I'm coming, He hung up. Anna stood in the alley, breathing too fast, trying to remember the last time she'd felt this particular flavor of fear. 4 years ago, the night she ran. It was happening again. She went back inside. Matteo arrived in 7 minutes. Anna watched through the window as he pulled up in a car that looked aggressively normal gray sedan, nothing flashy, the kind of vehicle designed to be forgotten. But the 2 men who got out with him were impossible to miss, not because they were obvious, but because they moved like Matteo moved. Controlled, watchful, dangerous in their stillness. The man with the newspaper was gone. Matteo walked into the cafe alone. His eyes found Anna immediately, scanned her head to toe, checking for injuries. She realized, then dropped to Daniele, who was stacking blocks behind the counter. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Here?" "No." He glanced at the customers scattered throughout the cafe. "Do you have somewhere private?" Anna led him to the back office, barely more than a closet with a desk and a filing cabinet. Daniele followed, sensing her tension, pressing close to her leg. Matteo closed the door behind them. "How long?" he asked. 3 days. Maybe 4. Anna picked up Daniele, needing to hold him. "At first I thought I was imagining it, but—" "You weren't." Matteo's jaw was tight. "Marco confirmed it an hour ago. You've had surveillance on you since Saturday." "Saturday?" Anna's stomach dropped. "The day after you found us." "Yes." "So this is because of you?" "Yes." At least he didn't lie. Anna's arms tightened around Daniele. "Who?" "I don't know yet. But there are people who'd be interested in knowing I have a weakness." His eyes flickered to Daniele, then back to her. "Both of you. Don't." Her voice was sharper than she intended. "Don't call him that. I'm not insulting him. I'm telling you the reality." Matteo took a step closer, his voice dropping. "The moment I walked into this cafe, I put a target on both of you. Anyone who wants to hurt me now knows exactly how to do it." Anna felt cold. "You should leave then." "It's too late for that." "Matteo, they already know." He said it gently, which was somehow worse than if he'd been harsh. "Leaving now won't erase that knowledge. It'll just leave you unprotected." Daniele squirmed in her arms. "Mama, you're squeezing too tight." She loosened her grip immediately, pressing a kiss to his hair. "Sorry, baby. I need to move you," Matteo said. "Tonight." "Absolutely not." "Anna, I'm not running again. I have a life here, a job, an apartment. I can't just—" "You can, and you will." His voice was still calm, still controlled, but there was steel underneath. "Because staying here means staying exposed. And I will not—" He stopped himself, jaw working. "I will not risk him." "You don't get to make that decision." "Yes," Matteo said quietly. "I do." The words hung between them, not a threat, just inevitability. Anna wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he had no right, no claim, no authority over her life or her son's. But the fear was louder than her pride, and they both knew it. "Where?" she asked finally. "Somewhere secure, somewhere I can control who comes and goes." "Your place?" "No, somewhere neutral, a property I own but don't use." He paused. "There'll be security, guards. You won't be able to leave without approval." "So, a prison." Protection." "Sounds like a prison." Matteo's expression softened fractionally. "I know this isn't what you want, but it's what I can give you right now." Anna looked down at Daniele, who was playing with the zipper on her jacket, oblivious to the adult tension reshaping his world. Again. "How long?" she asked. "Until I find out who's watching you. And why." "And then?" "Then we'll talk." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have," Matteo said, echoing her words from the park. Anna closed her eyes, took a breath, let it out slowly. "I need to pack," she said finally, "and tell Marie I'm leaving, make up some excuse about a family emergency. Marco will handle it. I need you and Daniela out of here in the next hour." "Matteo." "Anna." He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful control holding him together. "Please. Let me do this." She wanted to refuse. Wanted to tell him she'd survived 4 years without him and could survive whatever came next. But Daniele was 4 years old and didn't deserve to be caught in crossfire because his mother was too proud to accept help. "One condition," she said. "Name it. You tell me the truth. All of it. No protecting me from information because you think I can't handle it." She met his eyes. "I've handled worse." Matteo studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Deal." They packed in silence. Matteo's men swept her apartment, first checking for devices, threats, anything that suggested the surveillance had gone deeper than simple watching. They found nothing, which didn't make Anna feel better. Daniele thought it was an adventure. He packed his favorite toys carefully, asking questions about where they were going, if there'd be swings, if the new place had a bathtub. Anna answered automatically, her mind elsewhere. Matteo stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian to someone on the other end. His voice was low, controlled, but Anna caught words she recognized. Bambino, protezione, immediatamente. Child, protection, immediately. She folded Daniele's clothes and tried not to think about how easily she was falling back into Matteo's orbit, how quickly her carefully constructed independence had collapsed the moment real danger appeared. How terrifying it was that she felt safer with him than without him. "Ready?" Matteo appeared beside her, pocketing his phone. "No," Anna zipped the suitcase, "but I don't think that matters." "It matters." He picked up the bag. "It just doesn't change what needs to happen." They were halfway down the stairs when Matteo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, stopped walking. His entire body went rigid. "What?" Anna asked, fear spiking. Matteo looked at her, then at Daniele, who was holding Anna's hand and humming to himself. "Get in the car," he said quietly. "Now." "Matteo." "What?" "Now, Anna." The tone brooked no argument. Anna scooped up Daniele and ran. Matteo followed, his hand on her back, propelling her forward. The car was waiting, engine running, back door open. Anna dove in with Daniele, and Matteo was beside them in seconds, slamming the door. "Go," he told the driver. The car lurched forward. Anna was breathing too fast, Daniele confused and starting to cry, and Matteo was staring at his phone with an expression that made her blood run cold. "What happened?" she demanded. Matteo was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned the phone toward her. One message, 3 words. "We know about the boy." Anna stopped breathing. "Who sent that?" she whispered. Matteo's voice was dangerously calm. "Everyone I hoped wouldn't find out." The safe house was exactly what Anna expected, sterile, expensive, and completely soulless. High ceilings, marble floors, furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, bulletproof glass so thick it made the view feel like watching life through a television screen. 3 bedrooms, 2 guards stationed outside, 1 exit she could see, probably 5 she couldn't. A very beautiful cage. Daniele was asleep in the master bedroom, exhausted from the chaos of the day. Anna had stayed with him until his breathing evened out, then slipped out to find Matteo standing in the living room, staring at his phone like it held answers he didn't want to find. He looked up when she entered. "He's sleeping," Anna said. Matteo nodded. Marco's running down the source of the message. "We'll know more by morning." "Morning!" Anna laughed short, sharp, bitter. "So we just wait here until then? Trapped in this..." She gestured at the pristine space around them. "What is this place, anyway?" "Investment property. I bought it 3 years ago, never used it." "How convenient." "Anna." "No." She held up a hand. "I need to say something, and you need to listen." Matteo went still. "I'm listening." Anna took a breath, gathering the anger and fear and frustration she'd been holding back since they'd run from her apartment. "I appreciate what you're trying to do," she said carefully, I understand there's danger, I understand you're trying to protect us. But I didn't spend 4 years building a life just to have you swoop in and dismantle it in 48 hours. I'm not dismantling anything. Yes, you are. You moved us without discussion. You have guards on the door. You made decisions about my son's safety without asking what I thought. Her voice was steady, controlled, but edged with steel. I know you mean well, Matteo. I even believe you're doing what you think is right. But I am not a problem you get to solve. Matteo's jaw tightened. That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? Anna stepped closer. You found out you have a son, and within 72 hours you've taken complete control of both our lives. You've decided where we sleep, who guards us, what threats we face. You've made yourself indispensable. You called me for help, because I was being followed by your enemies, which is kind of my point. Silence. Matteo looked at her for a long moment, something complicated moving behind his eyes. Then he walked to the bar cart in the corner, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, and brought one to her. Anna took it but didn't drink. You're right, he said quietly. She blinked. What? You're right. I've been making decisions for you. For him. Matteo stared into his glass. It's what I do, Anna. I assess threats, calculate responses, implement solutions. I've been doing it since I was 16 years old, and I'm good at it. I know you are. But you're not a threat to manage, and neither is he. He looked up at her. I'm sorry. Anna hadn't expected an apology. Matteo Romano didn't apologize, not in her experience. He explained. He justified. He made you understand why his choices were correct. But he didn't apologize. Okay, she said carefully. So what now? Now I give you a choice. Matteo set his glass down. You can stay here, under my protection, until this is resolved. I'll keep guards on you, keep you informed of developments, keep you as safe as I can make you. Or I can arrange for you and Daniele to leave. Tonight. New identities, new location, enough money to start over somewhere. No one will find you. His voice was completely level, emotionless. You'll be safe. I'll make sure of that. But you'll be gone. Anna's breath caught. You'd just let us go? If that's what you want? After everything, finding out about Daniele, the threat, all of it, you'd just let me disappear again? Yes. She studied his face, looking for manipulation, for hidden angles, for the catch she knew had to be there. But all she saw was exhaustion and something that looked like resignation. Why? She asked. Because you deserve the choice I didn't give you 5 years ago. Matteo met her eyes. Because I spent 4 years not knowing my son existed, and that hurt more than anything I've survived in this life. But putting you in danger, putting him in danger, hurts worse. Anna's throat tightened. If leaving keeps you both safe, he continued quietly, then that's what should happen. Even if he stopped himself. Even if it's not what I want. And what do you want, Matteo? Honestly? Honestly. He looked at her like the question hurt. I want you to stay. I want to know my son. I want the chance to prove I can be better than I was 5 years ago. His voice dropped. But I won't keep you prisoner to get it. Anna set her untouched whiskey down with shaking hands. 4 years ago, she'd run because she believed Matteo would choose power over her, that he'd sacrifice anything, including her, to protect his empire. Now he was offering to sacrifice himself instead. I need to ask you something, she said, and I need you to be honest. Always. If we stay, what does that mean for Daniele? Really? Anna's voice cracked slightly. Because I can handle danger, Matteo. I can handle risk. But he's 4 years old. He doesn't understand why men watch us from cars or why we had to leave our apartment. And if staying here means he grows up afraid, I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. No, Matteo admitted. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure he has a childhood. A real one. Not what I had. Anna recognized the weight in those last 4 words. She'd heard fragments of Mateo's childhood over 2 years together, enough to know it involved violence and loss, and learning to fight before he learned to read. "If I stay," she said slowly, "it's on my terms. Name them. You don't make decisions about Daniele without consulting me first, ever." "Agreed. You tell me the truth about threats. All of it. I'm not some delicate thing that needs to be protected from information." "I know." The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "I learned that the hard way. And if I decide this isn't working, if I decide the danger is too much, or Daniele isn't safe, or you're turning into the kind of father I can't live with." Anna's voice was steel wrapped in calm. "I leave. And you let me." Matteo was quiet for a moment. Then, "Agreed." Just like that. Just like that. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension he was holding in his shoulders. "I'm not trying to trap you, Anna. I'm trying to protect you. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes, because one involves choice." He held her gaze. "And I'm giving you yours." Anna looked at him. This man who'd once terrified her, who'd just offered her freedom even though it would destroy him, who was asking for a chance instead of demanding one. "I'm staying," she said quietly. "For now." Relief flickered across Matteo's face, quickly controlled. "For now is enough. But Matteo, if anything happens to him because of your world, it won't. You can't know that." "No." His voice was soft, dangerous, absolutely certain, "but anyone who tries will learn why people fear my name." Before Anna could respond, before she could process the casual violence in that promise, the window exploded inward. Glass erupted across the room in a deadly rain. Anna dove instinctively toward the bedroom, toward Daniela, but Matteo was already moving. He caught her mid-dive, pulling her down behind the sofa as gunfire tore through the space where she'd been standing. "Stay down!" Matteo shouted. More gunfire, the sharp crack of returning shots from outside Matteo's guards engaging. Anna's ears were ringing, blood ran down her arm where Glass had caught her, but all she could think about was, "Daniele!" She tried to push past Matteo. "He's in the bedroom." "I know." Matteo's hand was on her shoulder, firm but not rough. "Marco's getting him. Stay here." "Like hell." Another burst of gunfire, closer this time. Then a different sound, footsteps in the hallway. Fast, purposeful. Matteo's hand moved to the gun at his back, drawing it with practiced ease as he positioned himself between Anna and the hallway entrance. The door burst open. Marco appeared, carrying a screaming Daniele wrapped in a blanket. "We need to move," Marco said, his voice urgent but controlled. "They're coming up through the parking garage. 3 men, maybe 4. We have 2 minutes." Matteo nodded once. He looked at Anna, his expression unreadable. "Time to go," he said. "And Anna?" "What?" "Your choice just got a lot more complicated." The second safe house was smaller, darker, older. But it had something the first one didn't: a basement entrance, reinforced walls, and enough distance from the city that an attack would be visible before it arrived. Anna sat on the worn sofa, watching Matteo pace. He'd been pacing for 20 minutes, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian to people whose names she didn't know and probably didn't want to. His shirt was torn at the shoulder, blood, not his, she'd checked, spattered across the white fabric. He looked like violence personified. And he hadn't stopped moving since they'd arrived. Daniele sat beside Anna, wrapped in the blanket Marco had grabbed, his small body trembling despite the warmth of the room. He hadn't spoken since they'd fled, just buried his face in Anna's side and held on. Anna kept her hand on his back, rubbing gentle circles, murmuring nonsense words that had no meaning, except, "You're safe, you're safe, you're safe." She didn't know if she believed them. Matteo ended the call, started another immediately. Anna's patience snapped. "Matteo." He held up one finger, wait, and continued talking. "Matteo," she said louder. "He needs you." That got his attention. Matteo looked at her, then at Daniele, and something in his expression fractured. He ended the call mid-sentence and crossed the room in 3 strides, crouching in front of the sofa. "Daniele," he said quietly. The boy didn't move, didn't look up. Matteo glanced at Anna, uncertainty clear on his face. She'd never seen him uncertain. Not once in 2 years together. But here he was, kneeling in front of a 4-year-old, completely lost. "Talk to him," Anna said softly. "Not like he's a child, like he's a person." Matteo took a breath, nodded. "Daniele," he tried again. "Can you look at me?" Slowly, so slowly, Daniele lifted his face from Anna's side. His eyes were red-rimmed, his cheeks wet. He looked at Matteo with the kind of fear children shouldn't understand. "That was scary," Matteo said. "What happened at the other house?" "I know it was." Daniele nodded silently. "Do you know what happened?" Matteo asked. Another nod. "Can you tell me?" "Bad men." Daniele's voice was barely a whisper. "With guns. Like on TV." "Yes, bad men with guns." Matteo's jaw tightened. "But they didn't hurt you, did they?" "No." "And do you know why?" Daniele shook his head. "Because I won't let them." Matteo's voice was steady, certain. The kind of certainty that could anchor a frightened child or start wars. "Do you understand? No one will hurt you. Not while I'm here. Promise?" The word was so small, so hopeful, so completely trusting that Anna felt her chest tighten. Matteo held Daniele's gaze. "I promise." "Okay." Daniele absorbed this with the easy faith of someone who still believed adults could fix anything. Then, with the abrupt subject change, only children could manage. "I'm hungry." Anna laughed, surprised, relieved, slightly hysterical. "Of course you are." "Marco," Matteo called, without looking away from Daniele. "Food?" "On it," came the response from somewhere in the back of the house. Daniele studied Matteo with renewed curiosity, fear temporarily forgotten in favor of more pressing concerns. "Are you my daddy?" Anna's breath stopped. Matteo went very still. "Do you want me to be?" "I don't know." Daniele tilted his head, considering. "What do daddies do?" Matteo's voice caught. He cleared his throat. "They protect their families. They make sure everyone is safe. He stopped, struggling. "They stay." "Oh." Daniele thought about this. "My daddy didn't stay. Mama said he had to go away for work." Matteo's eyes lifted to Anna's. She saw the question there, the guilt, the regret. "That's what I believed," she said quietly. "When I told him that. But it wasn't true." "No." Anna's hand moved to Daniele's hair. "It wasn't." Daniele looked between them, trying to parse adult complications with 4-year-old logic. Then he asked Matteo, "Are you going to go away for work?" "No." "Promise?" "Yes." "Okay." Daniele seemed satisfied with this. "Can I have mac and cheese?" Matteo's expression did something complicated: relief and pain, and something that looked dangerously close to love. "I'll ask Marco." He stood, but Daniele caught his hand. "Wait," the boy said. "If you're my daddy, can I call you daddy?" The room went silent. Anna watched Matteo's face cycle through shock, panic, hope, and finally settle on something she'd never seen before: vulnerability. "If you want to," he said carefully. "You don't have to." "I want to." Daniele smiled, the first smile since the attack. "Daddy." Matteo looked like he'd been shot. He knelt again, eye level with his son, and Anna saw his hands shake before he pressed them flat against his thighs. "Okay," he managed. "Okay." "Okay." Daniele echoed happily, then, "Mac and cheese?" "Right, yes." Matteo stood, visibly collecting himself. "I'll Marco food." He walked away quickly, heading toward the back of the house. Anna heard a door close, then silence. She looked at Daniele, who was already distracted by a toy car he'd found in his backpack, as if the world hadn't just shifted on its axis. "Stay here, baby," she said. "I'll be right back." She found Matteo in the kitchen, braced against the counter, breathing like he'd run a marathon. His shoulders were rigid, his head bowed. "Hey," Anna said softly. He didn't look up. "I'm fine." "You're not." "Anna." "Matteo." She stepped closer. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." He straightened, schooling his expression into something controlled. "Nothing's wrong. You're lying." He looked at her then, and what she saw in his eyes made her chest ache. Fear. "He called me Daddy," Matteo said quietly. "I know. He shouldn't have done that." "Why not?" "Because," his voice cracked, "because I don't know how to be that. I don't know how to be what he needs." Anna stepped closer, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the counter edge like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "You were just that," she said. "Out there. When you talked to him. When you promised him safety. I promised him something I can't guarantee. You promised him you'd try. That's all any parent can do." "Anna, he stopped, jaw working. "I've spent my entire life learning how to be dangerous, how to control things, how to win wars. But this," he gestured helplessly toward the living room, "I don't know how to protect him from what I am." "Then maybe you need to change what you are." "It's not that simple." "I know." Anna reached out, hesitated, then put her hand on his arm. "But you're trying. That counts for something." Matteo looked at her hand, then at her face. "What if it's not enough? What if it is?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and Anna watched his expression shutter closed. "What?" she asked. "Message from one of my captains." Matteo's voice was flat. "He wants a meeting. Tomorrow morning." "About?" "About the fact that my enemies know I have a son. About the fact that I've been distracted. About," he stopped, "about whether I'm still capable of leading." Anna's stomach dropped. "They're questioning your authority." "Yes. Because of us. Because I'm showing weakness." Matteo pocketed his phone, "And in my world, weakness gets you killed. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know." For the first time since she'd known him, Matteo Romano sounded lost. "I don't know, Anna." She wanted to comfort him. Wanted to tell him it would be fine. That he could have both his empire and his family, that he didn't have to choose. But she'd lived in his world long enough to know that was a lie. "Matteo." The door opened. Marco appeared, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he said. "Another one?" Anna's voice was sharper than she intended. Marco ignored her, looking only at Matteo. Luca called. "The council wants an answer by noon tomorrow." "Answer to what?" Anna asked. Matteo was quiet for a long moment. Then, "They want me to choose the family business." He looked at her. "Or you and Daniele." Anna felt cold. "They can't do that." "They can, and they are." Matteo's voice was empty of emotion. "Because keeping you means I'm compromised. And compromised leaders don't survive. So you..." Anna couldn't finish the sentence. "You have to choose?" "Yes. And if you choose us? Then I lose everything I've built. My position. My authority. Possibly, my life. And if you choose them?" Matteo looked at her like the question hurt. "Then I lose you," he said quietly. "Both of you. Again." The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Daniele humming in the other room. Anna stared at Matteo, at this man who'd just discovered he had a son, who'd promised that son safety, who was being forced to choose between love and power. "What are you going to do?" she whispered. Matteo's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, and his expression went dark. "The council meets at noon," Marco said. "You need to have an answer ready." Matteo looked at Anna. Then, toward the living room, where their son was playing. "I know," he said. And Anna realized with sudden, terrible clarity that she had no idea which choice he'd make. Anna didn't sleep. She lay in the guest bedroom, listening to Daniele's soft breathing beside her, and stared at the ceiling. Down the hall, she could hear Matteo's voice low, controlled, speaking to people whose names carried weight in a world she'd tried to leave behind. At 3 a.m., his door opened, footsteps in the hallway, then silence. At 4 a.m., she heard him leave. By 6 a.m., Anna had given up on sleep entirely. She found Marco in the kitchen, making coffee with the mechanical efficiency of someone running on no rest and pure discipline. "Where is he?" she asked. Marco didn't pretend not to know who she meant. "Meeting with the council. It's 6 in the morning. They moved it up." Marco poured her a cup without asking. Wanted to catch him off guard probably, see if he'd fold under pressure. Anna took the coffee. "Will he?" Marco looked at her with something that might have been respect. "You've known him longer than most. What do you think?" "I think Matteo Romano doesn't fold." Anna sat at the small kitchen table. "But I also think he's never had this much to lose before." "No," Marco agreed quietly. "He hasn't." They sat in silence, drinking bitter coffee and waiting for news that could reshape everything. Matteo walked into the council room at 6:47 a.m. 13 men sat around a table that had seen more blood than most battlefields. Old families, new power, the kind of people who made nations nervous and politicians careful. They all looked at him like they were deciding whether he was still worth their loyalty. Luca Ferraro, his father's oldest ally, now pushing 70 and sharp as broken glass, spoke first. "You're late." "I'm exactly on time," Matteo said calmly. "You changed the schedule. We have concerns." "I'm aware." "Then you know why you're here." Luca leaned back in his chair, studying Matteo with the kind of assessment that had ended careers and lives. "The woman? The child? They're making you vulnerable. They're making me human." Matteo sat down at the head of the table, his place, his right, earned through blood and strategy. "There's a difference. Semantics. Reality." Matteo's voice was quiet, controlled, dangerous. "I've led this family for 8 years. In that time, we've expanded into 4 new territories, eliminated 3 rival factions, and increased profits by 340%. My methods work." "Your methods worked," Luca corrected. Past tense. "Now you're distracted, emotional, making decisions based on feelings instead of strategy." "I'm making decisions based on what matters." "And what matters, Matteo? Your empire? Or your son?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Matteo looked at each man around the table, reading them. Calculating who would follow, who would resist, who would need to be removed. "Both," he said finally. "I'm choosing both." "You can't have both." "Watch me." Luca's expression hardened. "We're offering you a way out. Send the woman away. Set her up somewhere safe, somewhere comfortable. We'll protect them from a distance, but you need to focus." "No." "Matteo." I said no. His voice was still quiet, but something in it made the room go silent. "Anna and Daniela are not negotiable. They're not assets to be managed or liabilities to be hidden. They're family. Family makes you weak. Family makes me careful." Matteo leaned forward. "And careful men don't make the mistakes that get them killed. Sentimental men do." "Then it's a good thing I'm not sentimental." Matteo's smile was cold. "I'm strategic, and strategically, having a son, having an heir is the smartest move I could make. It says I'm planning for the future. It says I'm building something that lasts beyond my lifetime." He could see some of them considering it, reframing weakness as strength, vulnerability as vision. But not all of them. "And the attacks?" another councilman asked. "The ones that started the moment your enemies learned about the boy? Have been dealt with." "How?" "Permanently." Luca's eyes narrowed. "You're saying the threat is neutralized?" "I'm saying anyone who came after my family is no longer a concern." Matteo's voice was flat, emotionless. "And anyone who thinks about trying will learn very quickly why that's a mistake." "You eliminated them." "Yes. Without consulting us. I don't need permission to protect what's mine." The room went silent. Then Luca smiled, sharp, dangerous, impressed despite himself. "You're taking a risk, boy." "I'm taking a stand." Matteo held his gaze. And if any of you have a problem with that, now would be the time to say so. No one spoke. Good. Matteo stood. Then we're done here. Not quite. Luca's voice stopped him at the door. If you're claiming them publicly, you need to do it properly. No half measures, no hiding. Matteo turned back. Meaning? Meaning tomorrow night? The annual gala? Luca's expression was unreadable. Bring the woman. Introduce her. Make it official. You want me to parade her in front of every family in the city? I want you to commit. Luca leaned forward. Because if you're going to reshape this empire around a family, then everyone needs to know that family exists. No shadows, no doubts. It was a test. Anna would be exposed, judged, evaluated by people who ate weakness for breakfast and killed at the first sign of vulnerability. It was also an opportunity. Fine, Matteo said. We'll be there. We'll see if you survive it. Anna knew something had changed the moment Matteo walked through the door. He looked the same suit, same controlled expression, same dangerous stillness. But something in his eyes was different. Settled. Decided. What happened? She asked. Matteo crossed to where she sat, crouched in front of her like he had with Daniele, and took her hand. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Anna's heart hammered. Okay. The threat, the people who attacked us, who've been watching you, they're gone. Gone as in, gone. His voice left no room for interpretation. Permanently. Anna absorbed this. You killed them. Yes. She should feel horror, should feel disgust, should feel something other than relief. But all she felt was tired. How many? Does it matter? To me? No. Anna looked at their joined hands. To you? No. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Matteo said, There's something else. Tomorrow night, there's a gala. Every major family in the city will be there. Politicians, judges, people who matter in my world. He paused. I want you there, with me, publicly. Anna's stomach dropped. You're claiming us? Yes. In front of everyone? Yes. Matteo. She pulled her hand back, standing, needing distance to think. Do you understand what you're doing? The moment you acknowledge us publicly, we become permanent targets. Every enemy you have will know exactly how to hurt you. I know. And you're doing it anyway? Yes. Why? Matteo stood, facing her across the small space of the living room. Because I'm tired of hiding what matters. Because my son deserves a father who isn't ashamed to claim him. Because he stopped himself, jaw working. Because I've spent 4 years living half a life, and I'm not doing it anymore. Anna felt something crack open in her chest. This could destroy you. It could, Matteo's voice was steady, or it could be the smartest move I've ever made. How is that? Because claiming you publicly means I'm no longer vulnerable to speculation. Everyone knows. Everyone sees. There's no leverage in secrets once they're not secret anymore. Anna recognized the logic. It was brilliant, actually. Terrifying, but brilliant. And if someone comes after us anyway? She asked. Then they learn what happens to people who touch my family. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. I've been merciful until now, Anna. Calculated, strategic. But if someone hurts you, or Daniele, he stopped, there won't be mercy anymore. Anna believed him. She also understood, with sudden, perfect clarity, exactly what he was offering. Safety bought with violence, protection purchased through fear, a life built on the bodies of people who made the mistake of threatening what was his. She should say no. Should take Daniele and run, find that new identity Matteo had offered, disappear into a life that didn't involve galas and council meetings and men who killed without hesitation. But when she looked at Matteo, really looked, she saw something she'd missed before. Hope. Fragile, dangerous, desperately held hope that she'd choose him. What do I wear to a mafia gala? She asked. Matteo's expression did something complicated. You'll come? On one condition. Name it. Daniele stays here, protected, hidden. I'm not exposing him to your world until I know it's safe. Agreed. And if this goes badly, if I walk into that gala and realize you've made a mistake? Anna's voice was steady. I'm taking him and leaving. No arguments. Understood. Anna studied his face. You're really doing this? Yes. For us. For all of us. Matteo stepped closer. I'm not just claiming you, Anna. I'm choosing you. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. His hand lifted, hesitated, then carefully tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. One is about possession. The other is about... He stopped himself. Anna's breath caught. About what? Matteo looked at her like the words he wanted to say would change everything. But before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression went dark. What? Anna asked. Message from Luca. Matteo's voice was flat. Warning me that not everyone on the council is happy with my decision. How unhappy? Unhappy enough to make tomorrow night dangerous. Anna's heart sank. Matteo. I know. He pocketed his phone. But it's too late to back out now. The decision is made. The claim will be public. He looked at her. And Anna? Yes? You should know. He stopped, choosing words carefully. What I'm doing tomorrow night, it's not just about protecting you, it's about changing the rules. Making them understand that I don't operate the way they expect anymore. And if they don't accept that? Matteo's expression was calm. Dangerously calm. Then we'll find out exactly what I'm willing to do for my family. Anna stared at him. At this man, who'd eliminated threats without hesitation, who was walking into a room full of enemies for her, who was risking everything he'd built for a son he'd known for less than a week. This is going to destroy you, she whispered. Matteo smiled, small, sad, certain. Then, it was worth it. The gala went exactly as badly as Anna expected. She'd walked into that ballroom wearing a dress that cost more than 6 months of her cafe salary, Matteo's hand at the small of her back, and felt every eye in the room assess her value, judge her worth, calculate her weaknesses. Some faces were curious, some were hostile, a few were openly contemptuous. Matteo had introduced her simply, Anna Smith, the mother of my son. No apology, no explanation, just fact. The room had erupted in carefully controlled chaos, whispered conversations, raised eyebrows, a few people who'd left immediately. By midnight, half the families had pledged continued loyalty. The other half had made their displeasure known through pointed absence and strategic silence. Matteo had survived it. Barely. But he'd survived. Now, 3 weeks later, Anna stood in the kitchen of Matteo's actual home, not a safe house, not a temporary shelter, but the place he lived, and tried to reconcile the man making pancakes with the one who'd stared down a room full of killers. You're doing it wrong, she said. Matteo looked up from the stove. There's a wrong way to make pancakes? You're supposed to wait until the bubbles form before you flip them. I am waiting. You flipped that one after 10 seconds. It looked ready. It's raw in the middle now. Matteo glanced at the pancake in question, which was indeed questionable. Daniele won't care. Daniele will absolutely care. He's 4, not a garbage disposal. Noted. Matteo attempted another pancake with slightly better timing. In my defense, Marco usually handles breakfast. Where is Marco? Gave him the morning off. Thought we should try this without an audience. He paused. Was that a mistake? Anna smiled despite herself. The jury's still out. Daniele wandered in, dragging his blanket and looking sleep-rumpled and perfect. He climbed onto a chair without prompting, accepted the least burnt pancake Matteo offered, and proceeded to eat it with the focused intensity of someone who took breakfast very seriously. Good? Matteo asked. Daniele nodded, mouth full. See? Matteo looked at Anna. He doesn't care. He's being polite, Anna said. Aren't you, baby? Daniele swallowed. It tastes like TV pancakes. Anna tried not to laugh. TV pancakes? The ones that look good but taste like cardboard. Daniele said it matter-of-factly, then took another bite. I like them anyway. Matteo looked genuinely wounded. I'll work on my technique. Mama makes better pancakes, Daniele informed him. But yours are okay. High praise, Anna murmured. I'll take what I can get. Matteo sat down across from Daniele, watching him eat with an expression Anna was learning to recognize, wonder mixed with terror, mixed with something that looked like devotion. He'd been like this for 3 weeks, careful, attentive, trying so hard to be good at something he'd never been taught, and failing, sometimes, but trying. That was what mattered. After breakfast, Daniele went to play in the living room, a space Matteo had transformed with toys and books and things 4-year-olds needed. Anna stayed in the kitchen, watching Matteo clean up with the same focused intensity he brought to everything. You don't have to do that, she said. We have people who... I know, he kept scrubbing. But I want to. Anna leaned against the counter. Can I ask you something? Always. Why pancakes? Matteo paused, hands still in the soapy water. What? You run an empire, you have people who handle everything, but you're in here making terrible pancakes and washing dishes. She studied his profile. Why? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, because I missed 4 years. 4 years of mornings and meals and small, ordinary things. He turned to face her. I can't get those back, but I can try to... He stopped, searching for words. I can try to be here now. Anna's chest tightened. You don't have to earn him, Matteo. He already loves you. I know, but I need to earn you. The words hung between them, honest and raw. Anna had spent 3 weeks watching him learn Daniele's favorite bedtime stories, memorize his food preferences, understand his fears. Watching him be patient when he wanted control, gentle when he'd been taught violence, present when everything in his world demanded his attention elsewhere. He was trying. God, he was trying. You can't do this forever, she said quietly. The pancakes and the dishes and pretending you're someone safe. Eventually, your world will demand you back. I know. And when it does, then I'll handle it, but I won't disappear. Matteo dried his hands, crossed to where she stood. I won't be the father who leaves, Anna. I won't be what my father was. Your father left me in a room full of men who taught me to fight before I turned 7, who told me emotions were weakness and love was a liability. His voice was steady, controlled, but pain lived underneath. I won't do that to him. I know you won't. Do you? He looked at her, really looked, and Anna saw the fear still living in his eyes. Because I don't know how to do this, any of this. I know how to build empires and eliminate threats and survive wars. But a son? A family? He shook his head. I'm making it up as I go. So am I, Anna said. That's called parenting. You're good at it. I've had 4 years of practice. You've had 3 weeks. She reached up, touching his face the first time she'd initiated contact since they'd reunited. Give yourself time, Matteo. His hand covered hers. And if I mess it up, then we'll figure it out. Together. Together, he repeated, like he was testing the word. Yes. Anna held his gaze. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets. No more protecting me from information because you think I can't handle it. Her voice was firm. If there's danger, I need to know. If your world is closing in, I need to know. If you're struggling, I need to know. Anna, I'm serious. We don't work if you're constantly managing me. She stepped back, breaking contact. I loved you once, Matteo. I could love you again. But not if you're hiding things. I'm not hiding. He stopped himself. Okay, sometimes I am. Old habits. Break them. That's easier said than done. I know, but you don't get to choose me and then keep me at arm's length. Anna's voice softened. Let me in, really in, or this doesn't work. Matteo looked at her for a long moment. Then, I'm afraid. Of what? Of you seeing what I really am and deciding it's not worth it. That I'm not worth it. The admission cost him. She could see it. I can handle enemies. But losing you again. He stopped. I don't think I'd survive it. Anna felt something crack open in her chest. Then don't give me a reason to leave. Is that all it takes? It's a start. From the living room, Daniele called, Mama, Daddy, come see. Daddy. The word still made Matteo's expression do complicated things. They found Daniele in the living room, having built an elaborate tower out of blocks. He beamed at them with pure 4-year-old pride. Look, he said. It's a castle. It's perfect, Anna said. Very impressive, Matteo agreed. Can we all live in it? Daniele asked. Matteo crouched beside him. In the castle? Yeah, you and Mama and me, together. Anna watched Matteo's face cycle through emotions too fast to name before settling on something soft and fragile and dangerously close to happy. I'd like that, he said quietly. Me too, Daniele said. Then, with the casual cruelty of children, but you have to learn to make better pancakes first. Anna laughed, unexpected, genuine, the kind of laugh that felt like healing. Matteo looked up at her, and something passed between them. Not love, not yet, but the possibility of it. The foundation. That night, after Daniele was asleep and the house was quiet, Anna found Matteo on the balcony. He stood at the railing, looking out at the city spread below like scattered diamonds. She joined him silently. I kept thinking, he said after a moment, about what you said, about not knowing if this would destroy me. And? You were right. He turned to face her. It probably will. Claiming you publicly, choosing family over absolute power, admitting I have something I can't afford to lose, it's made me vulnerable in ways I've spent my life avoiding. Matteo. But here's what I realized. His voice was quiet, certain, devastating in its honesty. I've survived assassination attempts, hostile takeovers, wars that should have killed me. I've built an empire from blood and strategy and ruthless calculation. He paused. And none of it, not 1 second of it, has made me feel as alive as watching you laugh at our son this morning. Anna's breath caught. So, yes, he continued, this might destroy me. Loving you, loving him is probably the most dangerous thing I've ever done. His hand found hers in the darkness. But I'd rather be destroyed by this than survive without it. Anna looked at their joined hands. Then at the city below. Then at the man beside her, dangerous, damaged, trying desperately to be better. Then I guess we're both taking a risk, she said quietly. Matteo's fingers tightened around hers. And Anna realized, with sudden perfect clarity, that they were going to be okay. Not perfect, not easy, but okay. Together. In the distance, the city glittered and pulsed with life and danger and possibility, and Matteo Romano stood on his balcony, holding the hand of the woman he'd lost and found again, and understood finally what his father had never taught him. That real power wasn't control. It was surrender. To love, to fear, to the terrifying possibility that happiness was worth dying for. He'd walked into a coffee shop for a routine meeting. He'd walked out a father. And somewhere between then and now, he'd become something he'd never planned for. Human. The most dangerous thing of all.